Is it just me, or does Eren seem a little sociopathic as he's stabbing that one guy in the flashback? How's it going, everyone? So here is my review of episode 6 of Attack on Titan. The last episode was definitely the what the fuck episode, because right as we saw in that episode, Eren got devoured by a Titan and we were left with Armin just screaming his head off as he witnessed his best friend get eaten by a Titan. But before I talk about the flashback part of this episode, because this episode is actually very Mikasa driven, we actually get a backstory and get to learn a little bit more about Mikasa's character, where she came from, and how she ended up living with Dr. Jaeger, Eren, and Carla in Shiganshia at the beginning of episode 1. So before we get into that, we start off basically right with Armin. Connie's like waking him up out of his like dazed and like can't believe what happened state, and he starts to remember, like he's telling him, like, dude, where is everyone, what happened? And this is when Armin starts to lose it. He starts going a little bit crazy, screaming at the top of his lungs, and it gets calmed down a little bit. But what I like about this, it kind of shows the realism within this episode, and because how war is and how it affects people differently, because not only did Armin witness his whole team but also his comrades and friends get devoured by Titans, he is the only one left. He has survivor's guilt in a way, and it shows very well within this episode because he's upset that he is the only one left. And he even said, and a lot of the other people said within this episode, it's like it sucks that Armin's left, and kind of like Eren what got devoured by these Titans and his whole squad. And it kind of sucks too, because not only is Armin having survivor's guilt, but he lost a best friend. So he ends up leaving that group, and he ends up like Spider-Manning, 3D maneuver gearing through the city, and then he ends up running into Hana and Franz, who we've seen throughout these like last 2 episodes. They were like in a relationship. They were a cute couple, as a lot of people pointed out. They seem to be like acting like a married couple, but we see them in a much dire situation, because not only is Hana performing CPR on Franz when an Armin like stumbles upon them, he's bitten in half, because there's a shot that kind of shows like her performing CPR on his body, but it's like a full body shot where we can't even see where his legs are. So you can tell that the CPR that she's performing on Franz isn't going to be doing anything because he's half of a body. He's absolutely gone. There's nothing happening. And it just shows like how messed up this whole situation is within the Attack on Titan world, and how everyone deals with it differently, because she's in total shock and can't settle with the fact that the person that she cared about so much throughout the 3 years of military training is now gone forever, and she can't cope with that. And even Armin's starting to break down and just can't handle the hell that they're currently in right now. But we're also get to see that a lot of the civilians haven't really escaped yet, because this douchebag of a merchant who has all the food is blocking the path so that way no one can get through. And he even points out, like, he's being a total dick about it. He's a total douchebag, and he's basically saying that the food that he has that's blocking the path is worth more than everyone there and what they've ever seen throughout their entire lives. And I absolutely hate this guy, and I'm so glad that Mikasa comes in a little bit later. But right before that, we actually get the fabulous running Titan that I've seen throughout many GIFs and memes, and it's just so funny watching this Titan run. But eventually, the military starts moving in on it, but Mikasa, being the boss that she is, she outruns everyone, takes out this Titan like it's none of her business. She actually does it like so fluidly. She's like beautiful as she does it. Mikasa is absolutely MVP and just overall awesome in this episode. But she gets there and she sees that all of the people are in escape jet, and she's like, why aren't you guys gone yet? And that's when this douchebag of a merchant basically points out, it's like, why don't you tell them to help me get this bag in? And she's like, well, my friends are dying out there protecting your asses, and you guys haven't even left yet. And he pressed the button right here, because he basically said, well, you guys are meant to do that. You guys are supposed to sacrifice your lives for us. And this is where Mikasa has had enough of his shit, gets down, and the badassery that she holds in this part is absolutely amazing. And the line she says when she's basically saying, like, well, because the merchant basically tells him, it's like, I'll talk to your boss and have him, like, scold you, suspend you, do anything to you. And then she like takes out his goons and basically points her sword right at his face and says, how can a corpse talk? Oh man, I love that part, and that's like my favorite part out of this whole episode, because it's just so badass, and I love Mikasa's character so much throughout this series, and eventually like scares him to the point to where he finally moves the cart and rescues the people, and they're able to get to the other side of the wall, so now that they're safe from the onslaught of Titans. And this is when the flashback starts to kick in for this episode. So this flashback is basically giving us more background on the character of Mikasa. We get to learn her origins, her background, but also how she ended up living with Eren and his parents. So this flashback basically tells us that she did live in the countryside with her parents, but due to some certain circumstances, her parents were murdered due to her, being an Oriental. Like, that's a very rarity within society, and her being an Oriental means good money, and it basically alludes to sex trafficking in a way. Like, they're going to sell her off to the highest bidder, and then someone can have their way with her once they sell her. And Dr. Yeager and Eren show up to the house to find that Mikasa's parents are murdered, and they go out searching for Mikasa. And Eren's actually the first one to actually find her and actually help her out. And this is the part where I was like, Eren's got to be like a little bit of a sociopath, because not only does he murder these people in cold blood, but it seems like he has no remorse about it too, because he actually states within this episode it's like killing animals. They are animals in human skin, but he takes them out like a boss nonetheless. I'm not going to complain about that. Like, he just absolutely stabs the first guy, and then takes like a broom with a knife on it and then just stabs that guy, and then repeatedly stabs that guy. So 2 out of the 3 are gone, and even Mikasa points this out as she's being rescued. It's like, what'd you do with the third guy? Third guy shows up, he's about to strangle Eren to death, and this is where Mikasa kind of like transforms into the character that we know in the present timeline, because back in the flashback she has much more like, acts more like a girl in a way, and she's not as cold and as emotionless kind of as she is in the present. And this is where her whole demeanor changes, and this is where she actually builds up the courage, gains control of her body, and absolutely goes like a boss against this guy and stabs him through the heart, through his back, with so much force. It's such a badass scene. I absolutely love that scene too. And then, we get Dr. Yeager scolding Eren, and then eventually they take in Mikasa. And this is also where we actually find out how Mikasa got her scarf, because Eren gave it to her as a gift, and they bring her home, and it's a very nice moment. And it's nice to see that she still keeps that around her, because it's like a symbol of like who she now belongs with Eren and his family, but also keeps her warm, because it kind of shows the warmth that Eren was able to give her in her hour of need. So I really like that as well. But basically, this episode ends going back to the present timeline. Mikasa is now being told as like, all the civilians have been cleared, and we can go back to the other side of the wall and prepare for further instructions. But she decides, I'm going to go help out the other people, because what we really know that she's after, she wants to go make sure that Eren is safe. So we're left on that cliffhanger with her saying, like, as long as I'm with Eren, I can do anything, which kind of sucks too when you're first watching this, because you're like watching this episode like, no, Eren got eaten, Mikasa, don't go over there, because you don't want to see her heart get broken. And when you're first watching this, and it like leaves us on that little cliffhanger when she's going out to go find the rest of her comrades, as well as Armin and Eren, and the shock that she's going to find out when Armin is still alive and he has to tell her, that Eren is dead. So that's the end of this review, guys. This is episode 6. I think from episode 5 to 8 is my favorite part of this series, even though it completely like screwed up my mind when I first watched it. But this is my favorite part of the series until we get into the later half of this series, which I find really, really enjoyable. But that's it for this review. Let me know what you guys thought about the overall episode. Did you like about the flashback and the overall learning about Mikasa's origin, and knowing that like she actually wasn't a part of Eren's family, but actually was adopted in a way due to the circumstances of her whole family being murdered? So let me know in the comments below what you guys thought about this episode, and I'm looking forward to doing episode 7 in a couple of days, bringing that, and then episode 8, and then just moving on with the rest of the series. So I'm looking forward to that as well. So hope you guys enjoyed. Look forward to episode 7 review coming out shortly, and until that review, I'll talk with you guys then. All right, guys, see you later.